So my name is Tiina, and I'm founder and CEO of a company called Gajatri Studios. And this is a small game studio that I founded 2011 September. And before that, I've been a CEO in 2 small game studios here in Helsinki. And then before that, I have 11 years of corporate career in Nokia and TeliaSonera. And since kind of the 99, I've been involved in mobile publishing, so I've been one of the 8 people founding Sonera Z, so the first real crappy mobile games, porn logos, and ringtones. So 99, I found my calling, and this is the kind of the, where it has basically led me. So, because I think it's a quite funny story that's kind of how it started. So most money we made by selling a logo called On Top. You can imagine the rest. But pretty much kind of, looking at the business then, looking at the business now. So when we talk about self-publishing and when we talk about free-to-play, there are some things that are better now, 15 years later, some things that are worse. So when we consider kind of game design and tablets and platforms, things are better. Obviously, the devices are better and everything, kind of product-wise, it's much easier to develop and to do. When we consider publishing, not necessarily. Let's say that at the times that the mobile operators were kind of carriers and distributors in the business, what was easier was marketing and publishing of the products, because basically you could calculate all of your media choices and everything very wisely. So, we knew already 99 that if we spend €1 to marketing, how much money that makes us back pretty easily via 150 different media choices that we were utilizing in publishing. So that's kind of how this world goes. Some things change and for the better and some things change for the worse. So one of my kind of curious findings from yoga retreat go-to-market during the 6 months has been that actually publishing is more difficult and the product creation is actually easier. So that's where, like at this very moment, I would say kind of the state of the business is. So my dream was to start a studio that focuses on authentic well-being games. So games that are games with games, mechanics, monetization models, distribution channels, but also games that have some type of authentic content elements, meaning that are not invented. In case of yoga retreat, basically some daily meditations, yoga pose practices and stuff like that. So this is me, and this is kind of where it all started. And then maybe a few words for those people that are considering some point becoming entrepreneurs, starting a product from scratch. I think everything in the go-to-market phase will be a lot easier if there are really good answers already in the beginning of the project to a couple of questions. So what's the target audience? What's really the focus of this product? Is the market size big enough? So is it really big enough? Or is this what many people call a niche? You can call it a vertical, but then some other people will call it a niche. How are you different from 2 million other games and apps that are basically out there in all of the distribution channels? And why anyone would or should care about your product? So you tend to be very biased about your own ideas and concepts and games, and everybody is making the most wonderful thing. However, from player-consumer point of view, what is the story around your product that makes people interested when they see the icon in the App Store, or is it just the big eyeballs in the App Store that make people then try it out and never return after the first day? And then how to reach the target audience really. So it really doesn't take you anywhere that you make a product which nobody finds. So what it in practice you need to also integrate all of the advertising networks and make clever strategies in terms of, how are you going to reach the players that you want to reach. And while considering all of this, what I strongly suggest is that there needs to be a really good punchline for every project that really sustains from the early days to the later days of the product. What is the message and why is this relevant? Why is this product something that your target audience should be interested in and find relevant? If you have good answers to these questions, this is what I thought, that yes, we have, and so we started. Basically around 12 months ago, the iOS development project. Then people really differ in how they see the alpha and the beta and the product and whatever. So many people like to do really longer projects that are really polished when you take them out, and then other people are more in a hurry, like myself. So I tend to kind of bring always the products too early to the market because I like to get the statistics, and I like to kind of then really see what needs to be done, because effectively what happens is that you can stay in your meeting room and figure out a perfect world, and then that perfect world never happens, because when you start to get the player statistics, then that really shows what are the issues that you need to fix, and also what is going well. Always at the stage when you release in one market and start your pilot, then the situation is that some things are working and some things are not. Both are important to recognize in terms of how to go forward. And people always talk about this kind of retention, and in practice, kind of there are so many ways that what can be done. So many people say that, okay, if you don't achieve with this product, let's say 35% first day retention and 20% 7-day retention, it's not a project or product that you should continue to develop. You should take it out from the market, either change the core mechanics or then do something else, start from scratch or whatever. However, what if you have tried a wrong target audience, a wrong advertising network? So currently, if we only talk about, let's say, mobile video advertising, there are, 10 different networks, at least, that, have significant, video user bases. They have very different kind of products where they show the video ads. So part of the equation is obviously to try to figure out which mediums you are trying with, which have relevant target audience for your product. So I think one of the first kind of issues was that, so I was not so happy with, the yoga retreat retention when we first put it out in Canada. And then I realized that, holy shit, I actually need to try out 15 different networks in order to have kind of proper statistical evidence that I've driven multiple different kind of target audiences and age groups. And now I can say that it took us at least 3 months to recognize, who are really then kind of the core, the people that this product keeps. So, who like farming, who like city building, who like yoga, and how do you reach those people via the tools that you have in use. So not something that, came to my mind when I kind of threw out the first version of the alpha and started the first campaign, that actually I need to carve out the people, the right people that this product is actually made for. So maybe something that, when somebody discusses retention and then, somebody says that first day 40% and 7-day 20% and 30-day 10%, and then that's kind of where you're left with. But then what I say is also that to whom is your product for? Go try out with the right audience. So if you are kind of marketing the yoga retreat type of product to hill climb racing people, you obviously understand that the retention is not very good. So many things to think about how you then, when you reach this phase, how do you then kind of start to try out and really identify that have you been right or wrong when defining your target audience. Then, so also kind of, what has been a new thing with Yoga Retreat compared to some other projects and games that I've been involved with is that as the kind of the platforms have evolved is that it really kind of in free to play this trialing and piloting takes longer. So earlier it was pretty much in a way that you could say that, hey, we put alpha or beta out and then it's 2 or 3 months that we tweak and then we can worldwide launch. So this has been my experience earlier. Now, that anyway, the LTV requirements, so the lifetime value, what you need to get out of your users is so high in order to kind of break even with the user acquisition costs. This means that the actual go-to-market period, in my opinion, when I look around what people are doing with free-to-play, so not only us with the Yoga Retreat, it's longer. So, and it gets longer and longer. So this means that, like you might do 8 months until you reach the beta, and then you need to prepare for, 6 to 8 or something like that to be out in few markets in order to actually fix everything so that the game works monetization-wise and so on. So this is maybe something that, because what I realize is that when I talk to people, they get surprised when I say these kind of numbers. And, to me, then having done also many types of B2C and consumer services, I'd say that they are not so huge. However, but because gaming business used to be working differently, then this is kind of something what the practical reality is. So, since this is kind of a business course and people are business owners and budget owners and project managers and future entrepreneurs, then what it really means is that you need to fund for this amount of months and time and resources and teams. So this is also something that, why in free-to-play world, I think, the one-man shows are going to be extensively difficult. So don't try out cowboy stunts in free-to-play, figure out, some other platform or some other way if you want to do that kind of business on your own. So that's maybe something. So in terms of if there are people with technical backgrounds, what it means really is that, at least, every 3 weeks or so, you need to squeeze out a new build. And, it's pretty hard work and it needs to be kind of planned well. And then obviously, as we all know, statistics only points out the problems and then you need to figure out the solutions, and not every build you make the right choices, which means in the next build, you may be fixing with 2 builds the similar stuff that you found out. So that's kind of the practical reality that analytics actually, it doesn't really take you anywhere. You still need to innovate on, how are you fixing this math factory if the current mechanics, how it's been designed, seems to be too boring or with longer waiting times, and then fix it and then certify it. And then if your fix doesn't work, then make a better fix with the next build, which means that actually the time that you spent, obviously you fixed also some other things, but was actually 1.5 months. So this is where the time goes. Okay. So my recommendation in terms of the pilot is also not to use only one market, but to use, let's say, one English-speaking market, then to use something in Europe, which enables you to get the grasp of the user acquisition costs and how they vary, because that's important for your business model. So let's say if you only try out in Australia or you only try out in Canada, and then you try out only with this one network, with this target demographic, with this iPad version. So you actually get to understand if this is the world where, and there are the networks, you get to understand this piece, which may not be statistically relevant for your business calculation in terms of, what will be your real user acquisition cost, what you need to be prepared to pay for. So this also varies quite a lot. And that's kind of part of the go-to-market phase, to actually then try to find out the right balance between what you get out of one daily player, what that makes you over the course of the lifetime. Some games have 60 days, some games have 90-day lifetime. Determine what is the lifetime in the first place for your product, then make the calculation that, hey, daily player makes this much, lifetime counts to this much, what it actually means that I can spend in terms of acquiring all the people that I need to acquire. So in terms of competencies, so you guys have been talking about strategy, business models, money making. So, it doesn't really get you long enough if you can code and do graphics. So, nor if you can code, do graphics and design. You also need to serve the customers and then integrate the networks and, play with these marketing folks and, create your creatives in terms of ads. So this is kind of, a fully fledged small business that you are actually running on top of a virtual platform, and you need to understand the details how to do that, and therefore kind of the questions in the first place, that to whom this is for, and why this is unique, and story like that is important. So day 1, day 3, day 7 retention for me, average revenue per daily player, and then determining if the life cycle estimate is 60 days or 90 days. That's kind of something that you really figure out in this go-to-market trial that you are running. And obviously your objective is that the lifetime value is larger than the user acquisition cost, because basically that's where your margin lies. Okay. So you have at least equal lifetime value to user acquisition cost. So let's say that your souls cost 2.5 euros to me, and then I manage to kind of reach a point that I get 2.5 euros from your souls back. So at this point, I think it's pretty safe to launch then a product, because with that type of product you will also get some device manufacturer love for sure. So things to consider. In the App Store environment where we currently live, which will change. So in 3 years' time we will live in another environment. So we lived in Facebook 3 years ago, now we live in app stores, and then market will figure out some other ways that to which we will make products 3 years from now. But I think these are then pretty much the similar type of considerations that when you launch and when you bring out your product, whether it's app stores or some other platforms, where do you get the initial boost? Especially in the case of iOS and the App Store environment, this is really important, because the App Store, there is a formula which basically either then starts to kind of raise your product in the rankings or does not. And the formula Apple makes a lot of money from in-app purchases, so obviously the formula most likely is very skewed in terms of monetization. So not only how many people install your product, but actually how many people pay and how much. So people say that at least something like 40% of the formula comes actually from the monetization variables that the iOS store somehow calculates and stuff like that. Who knows? If you get some organic lift in the beginning, it's very good, for the reasons that when you get really big organic lift, you don't need to spend actually so quickly so much in terms of how to keep your product at the ranking and in the listings. So this is definitely something to kind of try to think strategically for. So where do you get this initial boost? Because you never can kind of guarantee that you will get Apple love. You know, you can try your best, but you can never guarantee it. So it's better to have some alternative plans, some partnerships, you know, really big budget, whatever. But somewhere you need to get really big initial boost. In terms of advertising channels that I also talked about, they have diminishing returns, which means that, let's say you have 15 different networks and, you know, start to drive campaigns on Thursday. So the first days obviously are really good, and then kind of their metrics starts to go down, which means that you need to actually have portfolio of things where you actually drive the players, and that you are then constantly changing the campaigns in different markets and in different tools. You need virality and you need word of mouth. And then when we talk about this, I think kind of what I see in terms of games is that the viral ideas tend to be artificial. So they are not really the types of viral ideas that what people really like to share. So we all make the same viral features. I reached this level, I completed this pose in our case. But really this is something that many games companies, including ourselves, we can continuously improve in order to kind of how to be genuinely viral. And then not necessarily in free-to-play, but generally there are also some brands and, you know, some other things. Very good wine bottle for you. Can I have a wine bottle? Yes. Like, can I have a mini bar? Good. And then in terms of the PR, so I always put it last and use the two kind of words for it, because many people kind of tend to think that games marketing is only PR. But actually, all of the stuff that, you know, we've kind of gone through is games marketing to me. And then PR can support these types of actions, what you need to take. And, you know, it can be very beneficial for your device manufacturer relationship and stuff like that. But it will never make these things happen. You need to have kind of a separate plan for every bullet point. And I think kind of my current experience in terms of concrete numbers is that when platforms mature, the user acquisition costs rise. So what we see now is that people are, you need to reach a certain LTV, but, you know, it is safe to assume that towards the end of the year, next year, the prices are not going down, because competition in terms of offerings is going up. So this generally means, and there are more providers, so this generally means that, you know, high quality traffic will continue to cost. So.
But it's still doable.
Yeah, but it's hard work. And so that's why I'm saying that it will take more time. Yeah. And people need to prepare for that.
But it's worth it.
Yeah, let's see. But, you know, from that point of view, if really kind of the figures are currently that you need to get kind of $3. I need to get $3 from you in your lifetime if, you know, when you're in my game. So to design for $3 is a task that, you know, should not be ignored from the early on. So I think that's the point, that, you know, when you are kind of going through all this trouble, you know, all the development, all the go-to-market, I think it's a fool's game.
Yeah, you have to know all of this, but it's still worth it, the hard work. You can make it.
Well, for some products, yes, and for some products, no. So this is also something that, you know, you need to build the gates, in my opinion, kind of do throughout this whole process, that, you know, should you continue, should you stop, should you continue, should you stop? Does it look like that, you know, you are able to kind of carve out enough money or not?
Can you use Chartboost or Playhaven to acquire users?
Yes.
But there's no differentiation what kind of users you get there.
Yes, there are some. So this is still early days of the tools. Yeah. So Facebook runs the best possible tools. All of the others are way behind. In Chartboost, you can kind of download the knowledge where the clicks came from, which will help you to a little bit see what type of traffic they are getting. But really kind of the advertising, I think, some of I don't name, but I had a colleague who said that, App Store is an environment where at least kind of the sellers of the ammunition will always win, meaning that the ad networks currently are the ones that are winning, like big. And then one of the things what I'm trying to do, since we are a smaller project with smaller funds, so I'm trying to buy traffic directly. So kind of leaving the margin, the ad net. So yes, we are using all the ad networks and blah blah blah, but I'm also trying to kind of prepare for the launch in a way that I will bypass the advertising network margin totally. So buy directly, because then I get cheaper prices and stuff like that.
How can you buy directly?
You can go to people who have the type of traffic in their applications and services, and then you can say that I will pay you this much per eyeball.
How much CPI cost you have managed to decrease during the different campaigns?
We have large variation. So, it's really, really large, and CPC we haven't done in the pilot at all. And currently we are starting the first CPMs now. So from CPC I really don't know enough, but let's say with the CPI we vary between 1.3 until 3. In different markets, in different networks, in different days, different weekends cost different, but that's the kind of the...
What kind of volumes can you get with those prices?
Sorry?
And what kind of volumes can you get? Like how many installs per day can you get with $1.3 or $3?
Depends. So, let's say the different networks, you can get hundreds of players at least. So, but then when you throw bigger numbers at launch, you need to have a cleverer plan than, to use 10 grand for Facebook. That's, I think, my intake from this slide.
So what is your main? Is it Facebook now, or is it direct user acquisition?
I do everything, as I said. So we have different kind of campaign formats and tools integrated for the launch. And then, the plan is pretty much 10 different things to do when is the time.
Okay. Are you trying to find one main way?
Most likely, during this year, I will end up spending 70% of the budget into one tool. That's how it currently looks like, based on what type of monetization figures we get. So, but then again, I don't know yet, but that's my current, my feeling, so to say, my intuition that, if I look at in December 2014, how kind of the split has gone between different, that's most likely how it will go.
And what tool is that? Yeah.
For us, for a women game, what would you think? Yes. Okay, so, but you know the retention numbers, and you kind of know some practice, and I think it's really hard work to get to $3 LTV. We are not there yet, but we are over 2. So from kind of personal experience, I can tell that, if you have a lot of persistence, even with small resources, you can work your way up. But I don't recommend it for the, if you really have, if you really, at some point, you need to kind of then decide that will you go through all this trouble even though it takes you 12 months, or, will you use kind of your ammunition to something else? And then that's also something that I strongly recommend people to consider when they think about where to kind of use the time and money and effort and people and make these managerial and entrepreneurial decisions. So questions, I would be happy now because this is kind of framework. So in practice, I think it's maybe more useful if there is something that you'd like to.
I have one more.
You have more, okay.
So
you shoot.
So yeah, like if you're a small company and you're wanting to make new games, and let's say you make a prototype of a game and you soft launch it, you put it fast out there.
Yes.
How do you know if it's worth continuing on it? Like, how do you know from the numbers if they are good or bad when you have put so little time on it?
You don't if you put too little time. So that's the number one decision. What's enough time? And that so much depends on what you want to test. But for me, for example, with the next game, which will be about food and not about yoga. But anyway, I will not do one single, user test. Nothing in our office. Nothing. We will just do a, alpha prototype and put it out with statistics, to some earth corner that nobody recognizes. So everything that we spent time in development phase testing was, time used in vain. Save that time is my advice. So, because kind of in current world, you will end up spending so much time in this go-to-market that minimize all this type of, doing in the development phase if it's not kind of absolutely necessary for the type of project that you're doing.
Doesn't that mean that, months will go into the game before you get it out?
Still, but months will go always to the game, and then, who cares about, opinions of 5 people when you're immediately getting opinions of 1,000 people once you get it out to one market and test it. And then it's statistically valid what you learn.
Yeah, but...
So this is, I think it's ruthless, but I'm provoking you. So that's why I thought that, my kind of one thing that I'm regretting is the weeks that we used earlier this year to show the early prototype to some people in Finland.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Finland, I'm talking about, developing the game for 1 month, then putting it out as a soft launch in Canada. Like a really, really early stage.
Don't use Canada then if you do that. Yeah, use something else.
There's some country, but
some country.
How do you know from the numbers then when you have only...
Well, if you have, 7-day retention 20%, you're off to a good start. Yeah. If you have 15%, then you can continue. If you're 10% at day 7 and, no transactions, nothing, then do more work.
When do you just, put the game in the garbage and start on a new game? Like, how do you know from the numbers to continue on this specific game and not start on a new game? That's what I'm after, because it's really important for small developer to know when to just throw what you have away and start on a new game. And to know from the numbers.
I think if you are under 10% at day 7, and you want to do free to play in this market, throw it out. But ask more opinions. Ask your friends, not only me, but just...
But I should just like to add on to that. I think it's really a factor of do you believe in it yourself? Like if you think it should be awesome and the numbers are not awesome, then there's something about it. But if you don't think it's awesome, but you think it would be and the numbers aren't there, then that's really...
So it's just, trying
gut
to make...
feel.
But I think there's also the factor of if you think you can actually do something about it. If you have a great idea how you can improve it and then you release it and it doesn't get better, then maybe one more try, and if it still doesn't get better, then do something else.
Just I know from experience with our second game that we ended up in a never-ending loop of trying, of like having this gut feeling we can get it better, and the numbers just didn't rise. And now looking back on it, it was like almost time spent like in vain. So it's hard to know. You may have that gut feeling that you can do something about it, but it might already be too late. would be better to just throw the game away. But I guess it's impossible to know. You just have to try.
It is impossible to know, and it's also what type of commitment, because kind of, for me personally, this is again just purely so, this is not a fact, this is my personal opinion, but I have not wanted, I wanted to kind of see through, because for our company there is also tremendous value in learning. So if you see kind of what I basically went through, so I want to launch this. I want to do all these things because basically we're so much better like today what we were in August by completing now this. So that's also then the other thing. You said you used a lot of time in Wayne. But now when I look back kind of the 6-month period in Canada, Netherlands, and what we know now is kind of something that will go directly into use in Android version in the next game, which is, what competence is about. And then when the platforms kind of change and the business model change, the sad thing is that, even if, you've been successful on some other platform, this gets old very fast. So if you then all the time quit and start from scratch and quit and start from scratch, what do you learn? So that's also then something kind of that, what is the bigger picture, where you are going. So one thing is this particular game, these particular metrics, what's the overall plan? Is there value in the path itself and how you monetize then that value, coming back to the overall direction of what you're trying to achieve. So in my opinion, kind of one of the things that, what has driven me to kind of improve and to choose this type of persistent route to complete and not to pivot has been the fact that this path has value because it has so much learning in it. All the tools, all the numbers, everything what you get is something which is kind of really up to date and really kind of hands-on knowledge. So that's also something then that, people very rarely think about when they make this kind of stop loss or continue decision, stop loss or continue. Do you also want to grow a competence in this area, in which case some banging, to the wall is also useful. So depending on the company strategy and, what is the plan for the portfolio, then I think there are always different considerations to take into account. But still, so what is the number? I'd say that, it's a relevant question, but, like anything under 10, nothing you can do. That's my personal opinion.
Should there be some monetization also?
Well, if you've used 1 month, there won't be, as in your example. So that's just my humble opinion. If you've used 6 months, then you should get at least some indication, and then conversion percent between 5 and 10, closer to 10, would be good, and stuff like that. But that's not that's then a later stage kind of problem. Retention is the first problem.
10% conversion rate.
So between 5 into paid users from all the users.
On mobile devices.
Yes.
That's like
closer to. I said between 5 and 10. That's a good number.
Is that even possible? That sounds to me like it's impossible.
It is possible.
Okay.
Have you also tried different acquisition channels?
Not so much, no.
Well, it makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, so 15 years ago, the conversion percent was always the same, whatever service, 1%. So this is something that has improved, because at least you can get it over 5 if you really are targeting a certain audience with a certain type of idea.
Most of the games I know have had like 0.1%. Like, I don't know if you know Benji Bananas.
I know.
Yeah, that has like 0.1% conversion rate. So 5 to 10, okay, I believe it's possible, but it's good to know it first.
It's possible. So obviously, you know, this one is business simulation, what we're doing now, and then I've done poker earlier. So as I said, depends on a kind of target audience, what you're after. So that's something.
Like I guess you're talking about 5 to 10% overall conversion.
Overall, yes,
Not
exactly.
Hey, have you planned or are you going to plan some viral campaign and how you are going to do it and what kind of yoga positions we have to post on our Facebook page? You know.
Yeah, so currently we have the normal ones, so you can share all the videos because there are the self-practice videos and you can do that. That's the normal one. And this is kind of something that I've only now started to look at. So 20% of our players make the Facebook connection, which is pretty good. But obviously that's because we've used a lot of also kind of Facebook marketing in our trial campaigns. But so it means that it's not possible to actually, it's not impossible to get people to integrate. And I'm now planning to kind of use more Twitter, and let's see how it will go. But my kind of so I'm really interested in exploring this area because obviously, you know, like all the people we acquire for free are kind of good for the business case. So, but let's say that Twitter is more difficult because it's 140 characters. So, but we have daily meditations and we have some yoga wisdom in the game already. So all of the customers that come to your retreat, they have intentions. So there is kind of stuff we can use in Twitter environment, but then also I'm interested in YouTube and stuff like that. And I think this is an area that, you know, will continue to kind of grow interest in all of us as kind of the acquisition costs tend to go up, as I said earlier.
Okay. What kind of volumes you need in order to make any statistical significant decisions or assumptions?
So my advice is that hundreds of daily players, and when you get to this stage where we are now, start to gradually rise to, let's say, 1,000 daily players. And that's, to me, enough people that it tells you that, you know, if you hold the type of, you know, monetization figures with that amount, then, you know, that's kind of pretty okay. Obviously, if you have more, the better, but if you know, depending on your budget, I think everything at this moment is statistically valid. Upwards from there.
Was it new users or daily active?
Daily active users, DAUs. So daily players. Because basically the ARPDAU is the one you are interested. So if you are running, you know, if you're having plus or minus 1,000 players a day, and you know you run that, you know, those campaigns and those volumes for a certain period of time, you can get very good sense of, you know, what's the real ARPDAU that, you know, you are looking at, and then when you know that one, you can calculate your LTV. So that's why it's important to kind of run large enough trials at some point, and not only tens of users. So. Good questions.
When you talk about the 7-day retention, do you mean players that come back exactly on day 7? Or is it like all players that?
Well, I talk because day 7 to us at least looks like that day 6 and day 8 are not much different. So obviously there is kind of little bit variance. But to me, you know, the most important milestones is, you know, day 1, day 3, day 7, and then kind of between day 7 and day 30, I see a very kind of, you know, regular grow kind of a churn happening. But then what varies a lot is day 1, day 3, day 7, when you use different channels in different markets.
You use the coming back exactly on day X?
Yes. Yeah, we use, you know, I buy you today, do you come back, day 1, day 2, day 3? So we don't use rolling retention, we use this.
The exact retention is good because it's the users actually come back and they come back often.
Yes, so tools like Flurry use wrong, in my opinion, wrong retention metrics. So therefore also kind of having the right tools that measure right things is important, but not easy. So the tools really suck, most of them. So that's one area definitely that is hopefully seeing some improvement during this year.
What tool are you using? Game analytics or?
All. So we started with Flurry, and I've got used to, in terms of kind of what happens inside of a game, so player behavior, because it has the event parameter data. And I kind of got I'm so convenient with it right now that, we have not changed that one. Then we have game analytics, but that has a lot of problems in terms of kind of, still the monetary integrations, whether the figures are right. So kind of all the money things I really look through iTunes Connect, because, what Apple pays me is what I believe. And then we have our own retention tool so that I can again follow in a way that I want to follow it in markets and wherever. And now we have Matt tool in kind of so the hash offers tool in kind of advertising campaigns, and now we are trying to find a better one because Facebook yes happened. Facebook campaigns are no longer possible to follow with that one. So then let's see what will be the new solution. But I have very good kind of understanding of the Facebook, how it performs on top of our game, without any tool actually, because I've been using it so a lot. So not so drastic for me, but now we're evaluating ADEX and a couple of other solutions to kind of how to see the funnels in a better way. But hash offers is really also, it really sucks, in my opinion, kind of, how you are able to, because, I used to run an e-commerce site. So I've been kind of selling also, running online shops at Nokia where we sold phones and stuff. So we had really good kind of metrics and analytics tools in the e-commerce side where funnels were like from all different traffic sources really clear. So this is really hassle, in my opinion, still these days with all of these, that you can't really follow the funnels and levels per traffic source in a sophisticated manner in this business yet. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tiina.